Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another How I Shot It. This week, I get to chat with Tony Hoffer. Hey Tony, how are you doing?
I am great, Trevor. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, I'm so glad you're joining us on the show this week.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so Tony, before we get into these images, let's just tell everyone where to find you. You're based out of Philadelphia, correct?
Yep.
And your website as well as your Instagram is Hoffer Photography. Is that correct?
Yep. .com for the website. Yep.
Excellent. Tony, I got to say, you've been a longtime friends with Spencer, the owner, founder of MagMod. So you probably are one of the very first people to ever even know the concept. So that's...
Yep, know the concept. I helped look at logos before there was even a company. So yeah, I've known about it for a long time.
Excellent. Well, Tony, these shows, I love jumping right into the images because everyone loves to learn. So let's jump right into this first photograph that you want to share with us. It's a shot with a bride. Looks like she's getting ready, which typically getting ready photos are not that exciting. And so I love how you actually made a getting ready photo cool to look at. Tell us about this shot.
Yeah, I mean, I really like shooting getting ready photos, to be honest, because people are stationary and I can kind of do whatever I want.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for all of these, actually, I just picked photos that I took in the last 2 months, just because I'm like, this is going to sound like a commercial, but I'm like so in love with the MagBox, and awesome. I wanted to just choose photos that I've used that for, and I've had it for 2 months. So, so that's what all these are. The reason I chose this one is because it's a technique that I've used a couple times now. Because the box is so lightweight, I've been able to mount it without a light stand, which I've never done with a softbox before. And I've shot with softboxes for ages. Like I pretty much only shoot portraits with softboxes. And so having a softbox that I can put in more places is amazing. So for example, in this photo, I have a clamp. I used the mag shoe and the box, clamped it to like the curtain rod or whatever, right above, and I just left it up there. And there wasn't much going on in that room actually, so I had light that I could turn on and off whenever I wanted, and it was, as you can see, pretty soft, pretty good light on her. So from that point on, it was really just a matter of finding a composition that worked. It was destination wedding, and so we had kind of a reflection of the ocean out there. And so shooting this shot was really just a matter of getting the reflection right, making sure that something was in the way of the reflection where the bride was going to be, so that way she's not competing with like the sand or something else that you see there. And then really just dialing up and down the MagBox until it looked right. So
I love this. You're the first person I've heard that it's actually is using the MagBox without a stand, like using it on a clamp. And so do you know which kind of clamp it is that you're typically using? Is it like a Manfrotto one?
I have one right here. So it's just one of these like old school Manfrotto clamps, and then I put this looks like I was prepared, and I wasn't at all. I just put the mag shoe right on there, and then I can just adjust the box however I want. So in this case, I had it like upside down.
Yeah.
Put the box on there, and then you can rotate the box.
So, hey, real quick, I do want to just mention, for those who are trying this, who have never done these reflection type of shots, it's important, as Tony mentioned, to have light on the subject. Because if you're on the other side of the glass and you're shooting through the glass, then you're just going to get that light, from the sun bouncing off the glass, and all you're going to get is a reflection.
I would recommend turn your light off completely. Like whatever light source you're using, turn it off, take the photo, and get the background, or not the background, but whatever you're reflecting.
Yeah.
Get that to look the way you want it first, and then add your light, and then it's just a matter of dialing the power up or down to get your light to the right setting, because everything else will look the same.
Yeah. So Tony, let's jump into the second image. It's the one of the palm leaf. Can you tell us about this one?
Yeah. So this was actually this was the same couple, but it was a couple days later. So again with the box and the case, we've been using it all the time. I've been traveling with it, which has been great. So this wedding, we travel all the time, but rarely take soft boxes to destination weddings because it's really annoying. And so it's been nice. I can just use that as a travel bag. I check it. And yeah, so we're just walking around for this photo, kind of on the back side of the property, because we're always trying to find like something a little less normal.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually a really small bush. It was probably only about 4 or 5 feet high. So my goal was to make it look big and to fill the frame with it. And so I shot this pretty wide. It was probably like a 35 millimeter, but it might have been even a little wider. I don't remember. Got as close to the bush as I could, so it filled the whole frame, and then had a little spot down there. So we had the couple sit on the ground, obviously, and then the MagBox is kind of just out of frame on the left here.
Nice.
So again, same kind of premise, dialing down the exposure so that we can see about as much of the whatever kind of bush this is as we want, and then kind of dialing the flash up after that to light them up just a little more. I might just add too, one of my goals when we use flash is, if I can help it, I never want people to know if we used flash or not. Like that's always my goal, because in natural light situations, I want it to look like it's studio light, and in studio light situations, I want it to look natural. Like that's, if I can help it. It's not always the case, but that's the goal usually. And so, trying to find that exposure where you can get that like natural looking light is my goal here.
I love that. That's a great lesson right there. Something that people can take with them. Excellent. So Tony, let's jump into this next shot. We have this couple sitting on this bar. I love your use of ambient and mix of the lighting with I suppose it's a MagBox. You mentioned you've been using the MagBox for all these photos.
Yeah, this was probably the first photo I actually ever took with it, maybe, or one of them. But yeah, we snuck into, so the couple wanted to shoot in a bar. We snuck into their like basement, which was empty. It's the middle of the day, but it was dark down there. And then I used a tilt shift lens for this because I wanted to kind of play with the blurriness of it, especially with these hanging lights. And so I was kind of standing up like on a chair, had the camera up above my head, right against the ceiling, right by the lights. And then basically, again, the same concept of, you can see, if you look closely enough, you can see like the back parts of their shoulders and stuff are getting some light from the bar. So kind of getting the light where I want it first, and then adding my external light in there as well. Maybe two things that are kind of interesting about this. One is that this light has a gel on it, which I could never do with the softbox before. So that's amazing, because it looks more natural when the color matches the bar. And then two, because it was so dark down there and these lights were so dim, I think we ended up using the like ND filter gel as well. So I think there's 2 gels stuffed in there. And that helped keep our power lower, because we often take like a studio light that we shoot with, so it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And so we use that. Yeah.
I love it. I'm glad you mentioned the ND filters, because that's something that I think is a lot of people forget about. It's one of those gels that not a whole lot of people use, but even when I'm out on the location shooting, I use the 8200s a lot. Mm-hmm. And even just one 8200s that sometimes can be really almost too strong if I get my light in close.
Yeah.
And so being able to put that ND filter and be able to adjust it a little bit more. I think it's a fantastic shot. And I love the fact that you got up on the chair, lifted the camera above your head. That roof must have been 8 feet, 9 feet tall.
Yeah, I'm pretty tall.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, actually, I would even say taller than that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Did you want to jump in? You were mentioning there's another image that we'll talk about. Do you want to go to that image right now that you said something similar?
Yeah, let's just go straight there. So that's the last one, a couple in the field.
Oh, it's funny because so when you sent these images over to me, I get a chance to just kind of look at them before we actually start recording this. And when I saw this shot, the first thing that came to my mind was, man, that lens that he's using is wicked awesome. I didn't even think about for a second there that it was tilt shift lens. But so tell us about this.
Yeah, so I just shot this last night, like 10 hours ago.
Nice. And
we were out in the field. We had this, so all the yellow that's coming in at the bottom, that's all sunlight. And you can see like on his, I guess, our left, his right arm, and kind of all along her back is kind of direct sunlight. So we did a couple things there. We had this nice sunlight coming through the flowers, but I just wanted to kind of add a second dimension of light, and so we kind of put the light camera right, I guess. And again, we're using like a kind of like a studio strobe without a cord, just a battery powered studio strobe, and it was probably a foot or two out of frame, so it was probably 6 or 8 feet from her. And the biggest challenge here was, well, one, getting it in focus, because this is where I use the tilt shift just to throw everything in crazy amounts of focus. And so I kind of usually overshoot when I do that, because 50-50 if you get it in focus or not on their face, because it's all manual focus. But the other thing that wanted to be careful of here is, my goal is think of whoever the primary subject is, and when we're shooting weddings and engagement photos, usually that's more the woman than the man, but think about the primary subject, and I always want to get light in both of their eyes. There's obviously more creative ways to light things or weird ways to light things, but as far as like a standard way of light, that's kind of my number one rule. And so the goal was, let's have her look towards the light, and then it kind of came together once he looked at her, and then it's just a matter of getting the expression right, really.
Yeah. No, I love that. So just to kind of reemphasize what you were saying then. So you have the sunlight was camera left, your MagBox was camera right. You basically had those two just cross-lighting, in other words. Essentially, right?
Yep. And I used the MagBox to light their faces because it was softer than the sun was. Yeah. So cross-lighting it the other way would have essentially looked the same, but the light source would have been harder.
Yeah.
And then we had them stand pretty much on the edge of where the sun was. So you can see behind them, the grass gets much darker because that was a shadow.
Yep.
And then the trees. And so we pretty much wanted to isolate them using that. So again, trying to make it look like a studio situation by having that dark background kind of naturally fall right behind them.
I love it. Did you happen to use any gels on this one as well?
No, this was just straight.
Straight. I love it. The only reason I asked is because that sky starts getting blue, so I was wondering if maybe you toned it down. But fantastic shot. Awesome.
Thanks.
Let's jump into this headshot. I know this is something that, as far as wedding photographers go, sometimes we, get kind of stuck in the wedding photographer genre. But it looks like I've actually seen you do headshots quite a bit. Is this something like a extension of your business that you do?
Yeah, so I've been kind of really growing the commercial part of our business over the last few years, and so portraits, headshots, and some other stuff that I've been working a lot, and and again, just use the MagBox for this, which is, for me, any more than one person with the size of it, it's for a commercial image, it's probably not the right choice, but for one person, I love the choice, especially when I get outside the studio, because in studio I have a bunch of different things I can use and choose between.
Sure.
But as soon as we get outside, so this was literally shot outside that door. You can see my dog standing there. So she was standing where the dogs were, and the thing behind her is my shed.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but the thing I love about the box, and I did a review on YouTube, and I said this, is with the shoe. So if the shoe's on a stand, you can turn it 90 degrees down almost, and so the box can be kind of feathered on this angle. And so for this photo, that's what I did. So the light was not pointed at her at all. It was literally about 2 feet in front of her, above her head, and pointed straight at the ground. And so what that does is it's called feathering the light, and it essentially just makes the fall off really soft. And so you have to be a little careful about the way you do it. But you'll notice she had white pants on, but even with her white pants, her face is exposed more brightly than her pants are. And that's because the light is up high and it's being feathered down. So the things closest to the light are going to be the brightest.
Yeah.
Things further away are going to gradually get darker. And so if I had just backed a light stand up and fired the light right at her, her pants would have really shined brighter than her skin because they're a lighter color. And so that was sort of a way of dealing with that. And also in a tight space with the shed only being like 2 feet behind her, feathering that light helped me avoid getting much of a shadow on the background as well.
Love it. It's funny, you talk about feathering. I'm actually, right now, I'm right on the edge of my light. I'm actually feathering a video light, but I'm using a MagBox with a focus diffuser in it. So literally, if I just scoot back just a tiny bit, you're gonna see that light gonna go. I'm outside that range. But feathering is it's a great technique for people to learn, to be able to really have that nice control, but also kind of that softness of light right on the edges. It's almost like you're capturing, where that light to shadow transition happens. So.
A good lesson, if anybody wants to learn it and doesn't have, a light source handy, is if you have like a hallway or something where you have light coming from like one place, and if you have someone stand right in the middle of that where the light comes out, you'll see, that half their face is lit. But as soon as they back up just beyond the edge of where that light starts, the light gets really soft. And then if they back up another foot, the light's completely gone. And so in that like middle ground that's the same as feathering. Yeah,
which is something you can absolutely use with natural light as well, with sunlight. So finding that right in those shadows, right where it's hitting. So love it. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you mentioning that. Fantastic. So it looks like we got one last image here, Tony. And this is a doozy. I love this one. I love the car. Thanks. I love your angle. How you got down nice and low, and I even love how her veil kind of comes across the light. So tell us what was going through your mind when you set this up in your lighting setup.
To be honest, this was totally selfish because we had this. We just took this past weekend, and we had gone around with them for a little while, and the light was great all day, and so we were carrying our light and the MagBox and everything around with us because we always do, and we didn't use lights at all the entire time. Yeah, and so. It was just sitting there. We were taking a photo by the car, and I was like, I carried this whole thing around for like 45 minutes. I'm going to use it for one photo.
That's awesome.
And so that was the only reason it was used. Probably as far as thought process here, I thought the veil would look cool just coming across, so we tried that. Yeah. And I just kind of got down, wanted to shoot it straight on, and I was originally going to put one person on either side of the car, but if you notice on the left side of the car, there's like kind of a brighter sky behind it. Yeah. And on the right side, we had a darker tree. And so I decided that rather than compete with the brightness that was coming from behind, we'll have them both over there by the darker tree. Had her turn her back to me just because that was sort of a position we hadn't shot yet. And then the MagBox is, again, off camera on the right side. You can kind of see the light's not hitting his face as much as it is hers. Mm-hmm. And so basically had her turn towards the light, he turned towards her. And pretty simple, really. It's just, pretty simple.
It looks like your light is almost like a 3 o'clock position. Like it's quite a ways over to the right.
Exactly.
And then what's on the left side? Is that the sun as well hitting his right side of his face, camera left?
Yeah, it is. And I burned down the sky a little bit. So the sky was whiter than it looks in this picture. Uh-huh. So I burned it down, made it a little bluer. So there was more light coming from that direction than it looks like there was.
Love it. Yeah. I think this is fantastic that in this show here that you've been able to show a couple different photos using the sun and the MagBox together. I'm actually I've been working on a session the last couple of weeks. It was some photos I had shot in Italy where it's the same type of thing where it's basically I was using the sun on one side and the MagBox on the other and essentially balancing them together. You can almost do ratios like a 2-to-1 ratio or 4-to-1 ratio, based off the sun. So it's nice being able to have that power in a softbox in a portable solution to be able to use it on location. So.
Yeah, I mean, the sun is the world's best light source, right? So, I mean, there's so much you can do with it, but the thing I love about lighting is that the sun does what it wants to do. You can do whatever you want with it if it's cooperating, and if it's not, that's where you have to know what you're doing. And so I love all the options that having both, understanding both things can really give a photographer a lot of options.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tony. And I would be remiss if we left the show without mentioning your wife, Amy. I know she shoots with you as well. So
she's too shy for this kind of stuff, but yes, she's every part of this as I am. So.
Excellent. Well, we certainly appreciate both of you guys. So thank you again, Tony. And guys, if you're watching this for the first time, be sure to tune in. Every Friday, we launch one of these How I Shot It videos, and we have some incredible people that have had a chance to talk to. So be sure to subscribe to the MagMod channel and tune in every Friday.